Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tanisha Chetty. I'm a NEOS COP co-chair for Natural Resource Management and Circular Economy, and I am from the Center for Water Resources Research at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. So, good morning, sawubona, goeiemôre, namaste, and welcome to the first special session. Our session is going to look at a special strategic industry response to the opening ceremony with insights from both private and public sector leaders across space, defense, energy, engineering, earth observation, and policy. We have several leaders from public and private sectors who are going to share their real experiences, lessons, and bold ideas with us. So I have an absolute pleasure in inviting our panel, and I'm going to call them up in order that they are appearing on our list this morning. Ms. Nomfoneko Majaja, our Chief Director, Space Affairs, DTIC. Major General Matabula, Deputy Chief, SAAF, and our Space Command Leader. Mr. O.T. Monaheng, CEO of the Denal Group. Mr. Brian Dean, CEO of Dragonfly. Mr. Mohla Monyane, Strategic Manager to the CEO for SANSA. Ms. Mapapuli NEOS, EO Infrastructure and COP co-chair, as well as our Chief Advisor, Geoscience for the National Transmission Commission in South Africa. And finally, Mr. Sandile Ndlovu, Executive Director, AMD, and CEO for SAMDEC. Welcome. Okay, so we've got some very special people here, but I am Ms. Chetty from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. So just to give you the heads up, we're going to have a 5 to 8 minute discussion session, a discussion from each presenter, and thereafter some key takeaways from our presenter. Some of them are going to come up and give presentations, and some of them are going to be seated and speak from their hearts. As I said, I love quizzes, examinations, and tests, so you guys make sure that you're all prepared for my question and answer session later on. So welcome to our esteemed panel. Thank you for obliging us with your presence, and I will be, as I said, giving you some time to speak up here. Please remember at the end of the presentation to share with us your key takeaway message. And we'll have some questions come up at the end of the session. So our first speaker, Ms. Majaja.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, are you feeling the reluctance in me? Hence, your response is also reluctant. Apologies about that. It's just that I've been sandwiched between bereavement and sicknesses in the family, and by 11 p.m. I was still in hospital last night. Please don't fault me if there is something that's not going well, but I tried my best because I like my work. And I like you, I like these faces. I always like to see these faces. I'll speak briefly about the primary legislation, which entails the Space Affairs Act, of 1993 and the National Space Policy, and what we are doing now with the stakeholders to come up with an updated version of that legislation. Briefly, I will speak to the space industry framework. I think most of you were participated in it. We had consultations here in Gauteng and in the Western Cape. Lastly, I will talk to the pertinent legislative changes that we are envisaging on the coming up legislation, the South African Space Regulatory Draft Bill. I would have faulted if I don't highlight that on the overall, as I'm from the DTIC, the DTIC is mandated to promote structural transformation towards a dynamic and a competitive economy. And we are looking into that transformative and globally competitive economy in all sectors or in most sectors of the economy, including the space industry. The DG of DSI has eloquently spoken about the G20. We are meeting this year in the midst of the G20 presidency. He mentioned the themes solidarity, equality, and empowerment, which requires us to work together, bring everybody, empower those who have the passion and the innovation to be part of the economic activities within this country, the continent, and the world. I will quickly jump onto the National Space Policy as how it's guiding the pathways to resilience, intelligence, and transformation. Some of my colleagues are aware of the National Space Policy as was approved in 2008 alongside the National Space Science and Technology Strategy, which we had our hands together with the DSTI to take those two pieces of legislation to cabinet. Arising from that policy, which is expected to provide guidance to all sectors of the economy, be it private economy, be it public, their actions and participation should be guided by this policy. The policy has certain key principles, very important today, would be that of fostering the development of the domestic industry towards greater level of self-sufficiency. I think that is quite important that we ensure, because we do have indigenous capability in this country, so it's important for us to brush that capability and move forward in all value chains of space, including the launch capability. So the space policy espoused this long time ago, and we should be going far here. So that self-sufficiency would lead us to be internationally competitive in the space technology and its applications. We also need to position ourselves as a partner of choice in the global space economy. The space policy espoused this through ensuring cooperation with strategic nations of the world in mutually beneficial programs. If there are any programs that would be beneficial to both parties, that is what we are looking at. I've picked up that we have evidenced this cooperation in seeing South African components in various global missions and in various global supply chains. We have seen a government and its agencies in partnerships, and the companies also are participating in various partnerships across the globe. So this is the time where we need to be putting the accelerator as well on our economy, on the space sector. As the DG has said, we are in a stage of decoupling, which is driven by the geopolitics that we see around the world. Further on the policy and the industry capabilities, the space policy as our national vision underscores the importance of building a robust and competitive local space industry. This is important. It was mentioned this morning many a times that this is for economic and societal value. So space is not to be taken as abstract, but should be taken as something that is going to benefit and is already benefiting society. We know that the space industry is at the cutting edge of technology in satellite manufacturing, data services, componentry, and the rest. And we know how to use those applications in climate adaptation, agriculture, disaster management. These applications have never been so relevant before during the times of climate change, floods that we are seeing every day, the fires that we are seeing every day. Space gives us solutions. So as I've spoken to industrial capabilities, those capabilities should not be the ends to themselves, but should be vital pathways for transformation, for transformative knowledge that we need to give to the society, to the communities, and to the youth, thereby creating skilled jobs and unlocking opportunities for innovation-driven enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a very busy slide here, which actually is one of the, I can say is one of the important slides, because this slide talks about interventions that we have at the DTI that we have deployed in a way or so, but we have not fully deployed. And participants here today need to tap on these interventions. I must mention that in 2018, with the stakeholders, of course, we developed the Space Industry Development Framework, SIDF, and it came with pertinent recommendations. Some of those recommendations we have started as the industry, as the space arena, to implement them. I will not dwell much on them. CEO Mudau mentioned the manufacturing build earlier on. It's one of the recommendations in the SIDF, infrastructure development, supporting Earth observation applications, and enabling the space industry, as we know, is at the cutting edge of technology. To pick up specific interventions, and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, please, I am not trying to say these interventions are specifically confined for the space industry, but these interventions are available across the board, and the space industry has probably not tapped on these, and it's important that it does. Those include the critical infrastructure program that will assist in the facilities upgrade, all facilities and other testing facilities used by space, aerospace, and defense. Further on, I think almost everyone has heard our executive authority, the minister, has started the Transformation Fund. The Transformation Fund, which is aiming at accelerating economic transformation and economic growth. So this fund is a collaborative effort to partner with private sector, to leverage on existing interventions, enterprise and supplier development, as well as other sources of funding that are available. At this moment in time, the department is busy with the consultation on the Transformation Fund. The concept document was published in March, and now we are further consolidating those comments. Another important intervention would be the strategic support partnership that will encourage large private sector enterprises in partnership with government, state institutions. This is where also SANSA can come in as a state institution to partner with the private sector, whilst it's supporting and nurturing SMMEs and startups and other small manufacturers. Whilst we have done all this, we would be having goods and services within our companies, and how do we make sure we take those to the world? Amongst the few export promotion and export development programs, we have the Sector Support Assistance Scheme, which is called the SAS, which is particularly assisting emerging exporters to participate in exhibitions and shows across the world. And this is one that we need as the space industry to look into going forward. It requires a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 15 companies across value chains, across sizes of the industry. And it requires a coordinator to bring together all the participants. Going to the end, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring you the changes that we are working on, that we have worked on. Some of you are aware that we have been working on repealing the Space Affairs Act of 1993. As I'm saying, it's quite old and outdated. We can all attest to that. Now, we want to create a new legislative platform that will support the thriving space industry. The new regulatory bill is not only going to be seen as the police, but is going to be seen as the support, as the enhancer, as well as advisory to the space industry. This, in the main, will assist government to ensure that we comply to the international treaties that we are part of. So the draft bill, amongst others, will ensure that we have a proper licensing framework. I think a colleague here will remember how we struggled last time to license their satellite from Dragonfly. With this legislation and the regulations that will follow, we will be able to do this with speed, because we will strengthen, this legislation talks to strengthening the institutional body and the secretariat that works with the council. Going to the close, ladies and gentlemen, this new legislation is there to promote responsible management and safe use of space activities for civil and commercial activities. In the panel here, I think we will hear from the military as well. The status at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, the department is working on consultation, especially with the state law advisors. We're working with the DPME, Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, such that we get new certifications, such that we go back to the clusters and also gazetting. As we are aware, with the previous administration, we didn't get much traction in moving in the approval of the legislation. Ladies and gentlemen, I think with those few words, this is what we are at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Majaja. Major General Matapula. Has it been loaded, or are you going to talk?
Thank you, moderator, for the opportunity. Good morning to fellow panelists and to the audience. Allow me to acknowledge my principal, the Chief of the South African Air Force, the DG of DSTI, Dr. Tele, in absentia, to all the generals and admirals present, DGs and CEOs, ladies and gentlemen, good morning again. Unfortunately, on this conference today, I don't have a joke for you, like last year, because as my principal is here, I am not allowed to make jokes. So please don't blame me, it's just protocol. Last year, I stood in front of all of you and I spoke about security as a public good that can be also utilized by private sector. And I spoke about how space power can enhance national power through collaboration between security and economic clusters. On this year's topic that was given to me by the NEOS, the Secretariat, on national security imperatives on a growing space domain, I'd like to focus more on the national space or national security strategy. And if you were in the center while the Chief of the Air Force was addressing us, you have seen on one of the slides the National Security Strategy 2024 to 2028, released on the 15th of July. On the first line of the introduction of the National Security Strategy, it states, and I quote, "Providing security for citizens is a critical pillar for existence and for a sovereign state or a nation state. Without security, there cannot be freedom, stability, and prosperity." Close quote. Well, within the strategy, there are various objectives highlighted on what should be done by all of us as the citizens of the Republic. And most of these objectives must be achieved within the next 3.5 years. And it's our responsibility as members of the space economy to make sure that we also make ourselves visible on that strategy. Now, how are we going to do that as a collective? Hopefully, at the end of my address, I will indicate what we have started with the Department of Defense as well as the Department of Science and Technology and other members that are inclusive of it. For decades, all of us know that national security was only spoken of if you refer to land, air, and sea, and quite recently, cyberspace warfare. Today, however, a new dimension has kicked in, with its space domain, and by extension, space warfare is taking place as we speak. In this 21st century, sovereignty will not only be decided about what happens in our territory, but how we secure our skies above, How then can South Africans ensure sovereignty and security through a capable space industry infrastructure? It is quite important for us to reflect on the infrastructure that exists as we speak. Now, why do we have to address the national security imperatives that are embedded within the national security strategy? Why must we act as a collective? Because our infrastructure, our space infrastructure, directly supports South Africa's security priorities as well as strengthens national power. As we know now, as also stated by the Chief, and also globally by the Chief of the Space Commands, that space is congested, contested, and as well as competitive. Every day, instead of in the past couple of decades, a satellite was launched once every other 2 years or so. Now, every other day, there is a satellite being launched each and every day by nation states to secure their own sovereignty. So therefore, I will now quote the Chief of the South African Air Force in his speech that he said today, that space will be the next battlefield, and we as a nation must be prepared. And by that instruction, I, the Deputy Chief of the Air Force, have been given a task to make sure that we establish Space Command for the Defense Force, the Department of Defense, and by extension, the Republic itself. Later on, I will highlight how far we've gone, and hopefully later when I'm sitting down, there'll be questions around those that I can be able to share with all of us. Now, we have to understand that if we talk about sovereignty and from a security perspective, we have to look at the threats that face all of us on a daily basis. So I'd like to only highlight only 3 out of those many threats in terms of space. Firstly, we have to acknowledge that we have a dependency on foreign systems. However, most of the industry members that are here would agree, because most of the enabling capabilities of those satellites that are sitting in orbit as we speak today, probably about 80% of the products or the enablers of those satellites are made and manufactured, designed, and researched in South Africa. And that is, unfortunately, I hope that New Space, Dragonfly, and everybody can attest to this. It's not my doing, it is their doing. So if we rely on foreign systems, we cannot claim or we cannot affirm or assert that we are sovereign. Specifically from a security perspective, specifically from the national security strategy that indicates we need to make sure that we have our own sovereignty. Secondly, we have to look at the emerging threats that exist within space. From a security or military perspective, we are aware of cyber attacks, we are aware of jamming, we are aware of the risk of anti-satellite weapons, realities. So therefore, we need to make sure that as we develop as a nation, we must also counter these threats as they exist. The third threat, unfortunately, it is made by ourselves. It is the fragmentation within our department as well as our private industry. By that, I mean not having a fully coordinated approach for space economy, though we are capable of making sure that we can be able to work together to collaborate. For those that are not aware, South Africa has been in space economy or in the space sector for quite a very, very long time. We do have the infrastructure. We do have members that have done quite a lot of things. I'm not going to quote them, but I saw the professor today. I think he's here. The only professor, if you're in the space, he's somewhere here. All of us know of him. I saw some of his products that are here. So therefore, we do have that capacity. So for us to be fragmented as a collective, it is not going to address the congested, the contested, as well as the competitive nature of space. So what are the current capabilities that we can be able to look into? Besides our long history in space capabilities, we have to ensure that various role players already providing world-class and leading-edge capabilities to the global space community are supported, are resourced, so that they can be able to share their knowledge and their skills to the next generation. And this hopefully will be done by a coordinating committee, which I will address at the end of my address. Now, as all of us are aware, most of technology is designed in militaries, and therefore there is a dual use for space-based assets and also the space-based infrastructure. A satellite that is built for border monitoring can also be utilized for precision farming, as you will hear probably from CSIR with the technical session later on. A communication satellite that is designed for military can connect rural schools as well as clinics. A navigation system that is designed for security can also improve logistics as well as trade. So therefore, in South Africa, where development and security are inseparable, the dual-use benefits can make space investments even more strategic and necessary. So, in terms of moving forward, to answer those three C's of congested, and the only other C that will be able to solve this problem that we are all having is collaboration. So I'm not going to address you for long. However, ladies and gentlemen, the sovereignty of South Africa can no longer be measured only by the strength of our armies or the military, the reach of our economy, as well as the resilience of our societies. In this 21st century, sovereignty will also be measured by whether we control our destiny in space. If we fail to act, we risk dependency and vulnerability. If we succeed, we strengthen not only our national independence, but our collective resilience as a region. But this will only happen through a spirit of collaboration and cooperation, both between departments as well as private sector. The South African Air Force have made collaboration with our partners in both private and civil as a priority. And as indicated by the Chief, it is our core mandate to make sure that we secure space power and deliver it to the nation as soon as possible. To enhance the collaboration of the South African Air Force and the members that are sitting on the panel, as well as some of the members in the audience, I've engaged, fortunately the Chief is here to attest to my statement, my principles, in ensuring that we have a sustainable space infrastructure and presence. But in addition, we have to make sure that we utilize all the knowledge and the logistics and the facilities that are available to us, not only as a defense force, but as a collective, to enhance what is required by our private industry, because without them, there will not be any satellite that we can manufacture in the South African, in South Africa as a country. We now stand at a crossroad. Let us choose a path of vision, cooperation, and ambition. Let us build a space infrastructure that secures our sovereignty, protects our people, and propels us into the future with confidence. The time to act is not only now, it is in the past that we didn't make the decision as stated by the Chief of the Air Force. Now, in terms of what we have done in terms of a quick update or status of the Space Command, we have completed our requirement operational capability to the limit. We have started what we call a staff target, which will come into the project, and that project will be able to produce a constellation of satellites that will be utilized for national security of our nation. We also are embarking on a defense space strategy, as indicated in the national space strategy, that it makes provision for us to be able to participate and guide where necessary the national space strategy. So therefore, we have started with that, and we'll be engaging most of you to be able to make sure that that defense space strategy is not only from a military perspective, but from a private, from a societal perspective. We are also started with the technology demonstrator that we have engaged in terms of the processes. All we need in the near future, there will be some funding provided to make sure that we can be able to get that technology demonstrator. And hopefully with the rocket launches that will be taking place in the near future, we can be able to launch that within our system. If not, then the members that are tasked to do that will be able to launch it within the next 2 years as instructed. So that, for me, is just an update status of what is happening within the South African Air Force Space Command, or the DoD. And I hope I've addressed enough of the national security imperatives in terms of the space domain. I'll be waiting to take your question. I thank you.
Thank you, Major General. And ladies and gentlemen, just don't forget for the test, the 3 C's. I hope you've jotted that down. Next up, we have Mr. O.T. Manaheng, CEO of Denel Group.
I didn't bring any. General, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's good afternoon now, and indeed it is. Program Director, the time you gave me is too short, I think. But I'll try and fit in. Ladies and gentlemen, you are aware that Denel is reporting into DoD, but that doesn't mean that we only build defense solutions. So the solutions we build, we will include civil application solutions. And space solutions are for dual use. So I must say that in response to the previous speakers' messages, talking to resilience, talking to inclusivity, and talking to intelligence, that cannot be achieved unless we have a base of technology. And I'm happy, General, you've mentioned about a good percentage of 80%. That's a good percentage. But I must say, for us to transcend, to operate at a level where we are sure that the country is secure, and the country can't be secure unless our space is secure. And for us, it's important that we harness all that we have as a country, work together, collaborate, to be able to address the challenges and provide solutions to the country. It can be to provide security for the country. It can be for other applications, whether it's communication, whether it's observation applications. But whatever application it is, we need to work together. So I've realized that when I came back to Denel last year, that space was not receiving attention that I thought it needed to receive. So in Denel, we have concluded the review of our strategy, and space is at the heart of Denel's strategy going forward. So that will mean that we'll listen to the needs for country security, we'll listen to the needs for civil application, and you'll sit with yourselves as industry and say, what are the solutions that can be delivered? So in provision of economic sustainability, we strongly believe that space plays a key role in ability to have space or control over space. We are not going to be able to achieve the economic sustainability we want to achieve, because we're talking about ground level sustainability. That is agricultural activities, any other activities on the ground. But unless we have space cover, we are not going to be able to have control. Data management, we are not going to be able to control our economic progress unless we have control over what's happening to our data as a country. Whether it's the data that we receive from space assets or it's data that we receive from terrestrial assets. All in all, we have to make sure that we maintain our sovereignty as a country. At technology level, the General has spoken about at country level, but us at technology level, we should be able to provide solutions that will ensure that we don't depend on other countries to provide solutions to us. We need the highest level of independence in terms of development and provision of space solutions. The geopolitics are not, or it's a good message that we are getting, they are not in a good space now. And it could be that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We don't know what we don't know that's coming in the future. So as a country, we better be prepared. And as a continent, we better be prepared. So the only way to be prepared is to make sure that we have technical solutions to answer to the security requirements that are going to be required by the country. So for us, I think General spoke about essential infrastructure. We need the assets. And I looked around and I found that we are not doing well in terms of ensuring that we have a good plan for the future. For us to achieve the sustainability, we need to ensure that we invest in growth of capabilities. We have to train young people to be with us, to understand the message of where the country is going and what is required of us in the technical field to deliver. And these young people must understand the role that they are going to play in the economic growth. You look at the numbers, our economy is not moving in the right direction. And most of us here are already at the point where they can probably manage to relax a little bit. But the young people, if the economy is not growing now, the impact is going to be felt more in the future. Because at the moment, we are reaping the benefits of the hard work that was done before. So we need to invest in the young people. So we're working with SANSA. It's a small project, but Mr. Mudau, we have to make this project big. We need young technical people that are going to, whether it's in building of assets, whether it's in the application, whether it's in data analysis, whether it's the overall management of data. But we need young people to get involved now, so that in the future we don't be in the same situation that we are now. We have what we call space and we have what we call time. The convergence of space and time answers the questions that we talk about when we talk about sustainability. I think the students of science will understand space and time and the resultant of that. So it's important that we recover from lost time from our side. I know that the companies that have been working hard to produce the components and the subsystems have done very well, and they've done very well globally. But we have to up our game at system level or higher level system so that we can ensure that we are there to provide technical solutions for the sovereignty of the country. At the moment, we're still dependent on other solutions coming from offshore. We have to be fully independent. And as industry, we depend on technical people to be with us. Without them, it's a non-starter. But out of that, we have to continue to build technologies. And CSIR plays a crucial, important role in ensuring that we build technologies to answer the challenges of tomorrow, which at the moment, some of them we may not have, but we'll have to answer them in the future. But we need universities, CSR, to work with us closely to start developing the technologies that we are going to need tomorrow. Dr. Dlamini mentioned that they are working on a radar sensor, synthetic aperture radar sensor. We needed that solution some years ago, and it's now very urgent. So if CSR can make sure that we are there. And the other problem is if we can have the technologies developed from private sector and from government side, and find a way of how do we work together to fast-track our technology so that we can end up with operational products sooner. There's limited funding, whether it's in private sector or it's in government. We have limited resources. If we can work together, chances are we can meet our objectives as a country quicker, much quicker. It is critical to be self-sufficient. I think we have seen what's happening in the world. Your friend today may be your enemy tomorrow. Your supply chain dependence can make you or break you as a business. And if as industry, our supply chain breaks us, it means we are not going to be able to have solutions for the country. So we have to make sure that as a country we are self-sufficient in terms of technologies that we have, in terms of the capabilities that we have, so we can work together as an ecosystem. Mr. Mdau, that's what you referred to. We have to be able to work together. And what has been happening for some time is we have groupings in the country. And the groupings will not take us very far because whatever happens, we are all here. It's going to affect all of us. So it's the sooner we work together so that we have solutions for the country, the better. Denel has got 2 areas of space that we are working on. We have the Gauteng facility, where it's a facility where the assets, the satellite assets are built. But we haven't done much on that facility. Mr. Mdau said we are now working very hard to catch up on lost time. So I said space and time converge, and we haven't managed to do that very well. We lost a lot of time. We lost a lot of time in space. And we have to catch up and make sure that that facility, we invest fully on it and not patching it as we have been doing for some time now. If we want to use it for the country, because that's an asset for the country. So anybody that has to have access to it, we should be able to have an arrangement that says that we can have access to the facility. I think what's going to happen going forward, General, is we might have the military side of this facility and the civilian side of this facility, so that the industry can still have access to some part of it. So that is in the planning. We're hoping that that will answer some of our questions, so that we can work as a country and provide solutions. And answer to what General Matebula was saying earlier, we have to be able to support as an industry. And we also have a capability in Overberg. The capability in Overberg, we are going to develop it for the launching of satellites. And that as well, we underutilized it. We have been using it for flight tests, to test weapons, but we haven't used it fully. So we have to use it fully. So that as well, we'll have to go make sure that we raise funding, that that facility can be utilized. I'm not a specialist in space, but I've been long in the defense environment. And I learned that that's where OTR is located. It's a prime area for the launching. So as a country, we have these two facilities that we have underutilized for many, many years. So Program Director, you told me that my parting shot. So we have the facilities, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make maximum use of the Howtech facility. Let's make maximum use of the OTR facility. And lastly, let's build capacity as a country. Let's make sure that the young technical people are trained, but not only trained theoretically. We want to see them building the next satellite. We want to see them working on the next launch capability so that we can have assurance that there's going to be sustainability in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Mr. Brian Dean, CEO of Dragonfly.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. South Africa has one of the top Earth observation technology commercial industries in the world. It's something that is really impressive, and it's something that we should all be very proud of. We have two payload companies, Samara Sense and Dragonfly Aerospace, world-leading companies, top of the industry in their market segment. We have two companies building attitude control systems in Cube Space and New Space Systems, world-leading on hundreds of satellites around the world. We have communication companies building telecommand and telemetry receivers and payload data transmitters in CubeCom and AAC Space Africa. And we have satellite bus manufacturers in Dragonfly Aerospace and AAC Space Africa. This is, as I mentioned, way ahead of majority of the countries in the world. It's something it's a capability that other countries are taking advantage of at the moment, and it is something that the South African government has not taken advantage of up until now, and hopefully we'll see, with the ambition that the South African government has in terms of strategic capabilities for the country, that this will be something where they can actually now finally take advantage of this homegrown capability. Dragonfly builds cameras and imaging satellites. We launched our first camera in 2020, and we launched our first satellite in 2023. We've been operating that satellite for the last 2.5 years and have taken tens of millions of square kilometers of imagery in multiple spectral bands of South Africa, of almost every country around the world in that time. We've reached a position now where we are hitting a production rate on our cameras of around building cameras in batches of tens. This now allows us to hit production efficiencies in terms of our parts procurement, in terms of our assembly, integration, and test, and in terms of our logistics and delivery to our customers. We also, by hitting these production rates, are seeing efficiencies at our advanced manufacturing suppliers in terms of placing orders in larger quantities and seeing more efficient delivery. For us now, the production bottleneck has turned to environmental testing, and it's something that we're busy working through at the moment. In general, for a startup business in South Africa or anywhere around the world, at the beginning, you really don't want to own your own facilities. You want to rent them. It's very capital intensive. It takes time and effort to put them together, and you want to get your business off the ground. What you need as a new company is facilities that you can rent. As you grow and you start hitting small and medium production rates, you move on to investing in your own facilities because the convenience and availability is much enhanced when you own your own facilities, and it's important to scale the business. And then as you reach higher quantities of manufacturing, you need to scale that production, those facilities, in order to be able to match the demand that you're seeing from the market. So when we started Dragonfly, there weren't any facilities available to rent, and we had to invest in facilities in order to get our business going, and that has pretty much been the same situation for all of the successful space companies in South Africa. What we wish for now in terms of a new wave of startups, the next wave of startups and burgeoning space industry, is that sort of support from, logically, a government-based system where you are able to build a startup in an incubator where you've got clean rooms and shakers and thermal vacuum chambers available for you. So that is something that I think is really necessary. I'm not 100% sure that HOTEC is the right fit for that. I think HOTEC is a good base for government or public-funded programs. But for startups, you need something that's much smaller, much more easy to use to get your business going when the entry threshold is high. So let me see where I'm here. Okay, so we're very lucky in this country to have a very mature, advanced manufacturing sector. We have excellent companies doing electronic circuit board manufacture and assembly, metal manufacturing, CNC, that sort of thing, and carbon fiber. And the South African space businesses use that supply chain a lot. Many of us are using the same suppliers, and those suppliers are progressing and advancing in their own capabilities as a result. So this is something that's fantastic. I mean, just in the Western Cape, where we're based, we have everything that we need on our doorstep. And that's a real benefit. It's a real asset for the country that we do not have to get the majority of things manufactured overseas. We have it in our own hands, and this is something that will benefit public projects as well as commercial projects. Yeah, I mean, in terms of Dragonfly, we're hitting production rates of tens, but there are other companies, New Space Systems and CubeSpace, which are hitting even higher production rates than that. So this kind of, I just want to highlight and underline the fact that, that we have an extremely advanced space sector in this country. It's not known. I mean, I don't go, if I speak to a South African, there's a 99% chance of it that they've never heard of the South African space industry. I mean, that's the reality of it, but it is real, and people around the world respect it. And we've seen that in terms of the order books, and we've seen that in terms of the foreign investment into our businesses. The local investment community has been risk averse, and also they haven't seen the potential in the South African space industry up until now. But that is starting to change. One of the Samira Sense, one of the local companies, received venture capital financing from a South African venture capital, and that was a fantastic step in the right direction. But up until now, it's only been international investors that have seen that potential. This demand, this international demand, I mean, let me be clear. I don't know, I can't speak for all the other companies, but 100% of our revenue comes from outside of the country, okay? And pretty close to that from outside of the continent as well. We were very proud to be providing the payload on Botswana's first satellite, but I think that's the only order we've ever received from the African continent. So this is a resource that's available to us that is only being used by other people at the moment. Now, geopolitics plays a complicated role when we're dealing internationally. I think the majority of the space companies in South Africa, the primary markets that we're looking at are Europe and US, and the geopolitics around working with other aligned countries is complicated. You cannot work with both simultaneously. It is mutually exclusive. So by working with the other side of the global political divide, we are cutting off working with Europe and US, and that's something that's very important for the development of the industry and the continued success of the industry here. And South Africa's political stance is quite complicated. In a situation where we are non-aligned, that is a reasonably good position. It's a complicated position. It's very difficult to maintain that non-aligned status and be able to work with everyone in the world. The countries who have a similar status are good allies, and India and Brazil and UAE, I would say, are good examples of countries that are able to play that non-aligned role, and we've had good business with those countries as well. India in particular, we've had very good business with in the past, and we're seeing lots of strong opportunities from India in the future as well. So at a geopolitical level, India is a very good partner for South Africa, and it's something that we hope can be developed to get further with the support of the South African government. Yeah, I mean, in terms of Africa, obviously it's very frustrating. There are a number of countries around Africa that have strong space strategies and are putting assets in space, but the vast majority of them are buying internationally, and by that I mean from off the continent. So, I think building up South Africa's relations on the continent is also really important, because this is something that we can contribute to the growth of the African space industry without having African money going to countries from around the world to support their industries, which doesn't make any sense. So, as we embark on building up more capability of South African ecosystem, and for South African assets, we obviously have various players in the space domain here in terms of, SANSA and the Air Force, which are leading the user needs from the civilian and defense sides. We have CSIR developing technology. We have Denel looking at the production of technology for the country, and we have private industry that can support all of those players. Now, an area where private industry is very good at is in innovation and technology development. This is not an area where government and state-owned enterprises can necessarily move as fast, and this is an area where we think it's really important to make sure that private industry is forming a central part in technology development. CSIR has a good track record in public-funded technology development. We've been working together with the radar team from CSIR for many years to get the first C-band phased array payload in space, and as the CEO of Denel mentioned, that's really state-of-the-art technology, and internationally, it's cutting-edge technology. It's ready. I was just chatting to their project manager before the speech, and we were almost there. And Willie and I presented last year on the topic, and a lot of progress has been made in the last year. Every year, we're taking steps forward, and we're getting to the point where we're now ready to put that technology in space. And that's going to be an amazing step for the country, because we've had a long history of building camera-based Earth observation satellites. But the next step for us now is radar-based Earth observation satellites. And this is a massive demand internationally, I can tell you. The biggest drive at the moment internationally is in radar-based satellites, and I think it's an area where South Africa can lead, and we just need to grab it and do it now. So very much looking forward to the next steps and how the story continues and develops further. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We've got two more speakers. Our last speaker, Mr. Ndlovu, has had to leave for an emergency. Welcome up. Mr. Toshane?
Yeah, yeah. How do I do that? How do I?
Arrow.
Arrow down. There. Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. And all protocols observed. And I'd like to, before I go into my presentation, perhaps opine on what my colleague said, Mr. Dean, with regards to the issue of geopolitics. I think, of course, it's a reality we're all aware in terms of what's been happening geopolitically. And I think you'd all agree with me that all countries, be it particularly with regards to our industry, do so for their own national interests. And we've seen what I would call geopolitical hypocrisy, where on the headlines and what we read about, there are two forces that are at war with each other. But then when you dig a little bit deeper, there's a lot of collaboration and co-opetition as well. So I think there's a balance that needs to be struck, particularly for a country like South Africa, as we are looking to build our indigenous space capabilities, how we balance that with regards to partnerships and so on. And I think I will leave it at that. So my subject is on lessons learned as well as opportunities from building coordinated space infrastructure locally. And perhaps before I go, Lieutenant General Mbambo, we really absolutely enjoyed the performance by the Air Force Choir earlier, and I thoroughly enjoyed particularly the conductor. I thought that was beautifully done. So, with regards to us as South Africa, I think we can safely say we have actually moved from just really watching the stars and really doing a lot of work through industry, through government, and the entire ecosystem, looking at how we build tools to be able to reach the stars ourselves. And I think it's very clear in terms of when you look at our national space strategy, that it provides a very clear map on how we're going to get there, how we can move from, and I believe this was mentioned by one of the previous speakers, from just being a space consumer and not just being a space producer, but being a producer of indigenous capabilities. And of course, there are three really key things that we've seen happen when you sort of look retrospectively. There's been a very clear mission in terms of ensuring that we do build local space capabilities to serve our country's priorities, as well as the smart investment. And we all know, and we are very grateful as SANSA for the support of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation for the continued investment that is being made. And we call that smart investment because we don't just look at that as just a way for us to build space infrastructure or even technology, but that is a form of economic muscle, if you will. And of course, one cannot ignore the role that South Africa, particularly us as SANSA, has played with regards to the space agenda on the African continent, and of course, our country as a whole with regards to what we mean to the African continent. And I think this has been alluded to quite a number of times, so when your boss is sitting in the front, you also have to align. So I think, of course, in everything we're doing here is just ensuring that science, technology, and innovation is at the center of government, education, industry, as well as society. Now, of course, I will not have done my job if I come up and then sit down without punting. What are we at SANSA doing with regards to the subject that I've just shared with you? So, of course, I hope you can all read our various strategic pillars here, the focus areas. Our CEO touched earlier on, and as well as the CEO of Dinel, with regards to the satellite build program. That is one of the very key focus area. We also alluded to the space launch capabilities. Local space launch capabilities is one of the focal areas. Of course, space exploration and Earth discovery. Yes, these might seem sort of moonshot ideas, but why can't we as South Africa play a role in this? And as SANSA, we're ambitious enough to find creative ways to ensure that our country do participate in this frontier. And of course, space science, EO, research, development and innovation, as well as Earth intelligence, which is very much in line with our theme for this year's conference. And of course, looking at how we leverage some of our capabilities that we are proud of, such as our space operations, etc., on driving economic diplomacy. And of course, when you look at the foundation of this house, if you will, at the very foundation of that, of course, is the investment that needs to be done. As I mentioned, government has already done a lot, and there's continuing work being done to build that. And of course, once we can get to a point where, if you look at one of the key parts of our foundation, it's the local industry, and ensuring that that continues to grow and to be transformed. And of course, once we can do that, we can actually be able to demonstrate the value that us as a space ecosystem actually contribute to the national fiscus. And some of the opportunities, again, the issue of us contributing to the national fiscus, as I mentioned, space, just like any other industry, what we do is great, and we're all here, we agree, it's fantastic, but until it can move the dial as far as economic growth is concerned, we might as well just close shop and go home. So really it's looking at what more can we do to be able to contribute to the growth of our economy, and initiatives such as the Neo Frontiers, which are really fantastic, because not only do they contribute to the growth of the industry, but there's a very deliberate and intentional focus on micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, while we're ensuring that transformation is at the center of that. And of course, as I mentioned, with regards to our Africa partnerships, ensuring that we leverage our joint capabilities as a country, whether you're talking industry, you're talking academia, etc., and how do we utilize that to strengthen our partnerships with our African partners. And of course, ensure that in all of this, we strengthen our country's sovereign strategic space capabilities, as well as improve our global competition. Now, to all of you that were here with regards to the performance by the choir earlier, you will have noticed that in order for the conductor to successfully conduct the choir, he had to turn his back on the audience to be able to avoid distractions and to focus on the job at hand. Now, as a country, if we are going to accomplish the societal resilience that we seek, the transformational change that we want to experience, as well as ensuring that we leverage our collective intelligence, we may need to, just like a conductor, turn our backs on distractions to be able to ensure that we put a performance that will be to the benefit of our audience, in this case, our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And finally, we have Ms. Mapapuli.
Is it 5 minutes?
Yes, please.
Greetings, everyone. All protocols are observed. Thank you, Program Director, for this time that you have awarded to us to actually share with the community what are we doing at NTCSA. To the audience that are not aware, which company I'm talking about is the newly launched ESCOM subsidiary company as of 1 July 2024. It's called National Transmission Company South Africa. So I am coming from the Geospatial Intelligence, and I'm a geospatial advisor on that department. I am given a topic that I need to share with how are we using the Earth observation to harness transmission infrastructure. We are the owner of transmission infrastructure, and let me share our mandate and our objectives so that you are able to align as I present going forward. Our mandate is to ensure that we effectively and efficiently supply electricity. That means that the buzzword that we've been talking about from morning, security is part of it, is part of our objectives, that we need to make sure that there is a security to power supply. Knowing that we own an infrastructure that has been classified as a national strategic economic infrastructure. So therefore, we need to make sure that there is always a power supply without any ceasing. Unfortunately, we do experience areas that we are not that efficiently and effectively. It's found wanting. Just to allude with what our previous speaker said, that we need to stop glazing the stars. We have stopped a while back to glaze on the star and to start working. We have developed various technologies. We have developed various applications from the Earth observation data set. We have deployed in situ infrastructure to assist us into making sure that our business is operating efficiently and effectively, and that the decision makers are making decision that is clear and scientific, proven, and engineered by as based on science. So within our organization, we have we have realized that science and engineering need to work together. For engineers to be able to engineer a sustainable infrastructure, that sustainable infrastructure has to be based on the engineering side of things. That sustainable infrastructure needs to be based on science. So that is what I'm going to share with you today. One of our areas that I'm going to talk about what we call, I will call it a seed, the socio-economic impact on our mandate, the environmental impact on our mandate, the engineering and the technological. We do struggle, or we do have a challenge that most of you will agree with us, the socio-economic impact. Without Earth observation data set, we are unable to address that impact. We have challenges in terms of encroachment. So our encroachment is in two sides, which is vegetation encroachment that also causes fire and trip the line, and also we also have the human settlement encroachment. So the human vegetation, we can address that, and we are able to, we've got program in places that to actually address that challenge. However, the socio-economic challenge, which is the human settlement, where we find that we spend time acquiring servitude to build our line. Just before we build our line, we realize that we cannot build our line because people have settled on the encroached, on the servitude that we have encroached. Mind you, that particular part is part of our asset. So both the vegetation and the human settlement encroachment are actually costing our organization billions, because you risk to lose land which you have acquired and paid. Then you need to go through the court cases. If you have managed to pick up that encroachment outside the legislative time. So the legislature is saying that any encroachment that we will pick it up within a space of 6 months, we are able to remove that person without compensation. However, we do have historical issues where that was before SANSA educated us on the benefits of Earth observation. Now that they have educated us, we are able to implement those applications where we do encroachment analysis to find out how long we are able to even go back to see for how long did this community has been settling on our servitude. Just a couple of weeks ago, we have managed to remove one community that we have realized that it started settling on our servitude in April. So, mind you, if there was no earth observation, we were not going to have an evidence even before the court to prove that this servitude was clear before April. It was only accommodated, the people settle on that particular servitude after April, of which they are able to, together with security police, they are able to remove those. So these are some of the benefits that as a company we are experiencing. And some of the benefits that we are experiencing, some of them, they are current, and then we also have those that are forecasted, such as climate change analysis. We are able to do, we are able to assist the business into ensuring that there is a resilience on our infrastructure, and resilience is built and it's embedded within the engineering. We are able to understand when is the extreme precipitation, extreme temperature are being forecasted, because all those things, they impact on on the security of our power supply. And one of the challenges that also we look at is with regard to EO providing the predictive maintenance. Are we able to do that except on climate change? Because we would like to know when are we going to experience encroachment in this area? Can we predict those encroachment? At the meantime, I can say that the answer is just half on the other side, because you will never know when people are going to encroach on the power line. And the most important thing that we have realized, we have seen the application of Earth observation assisting us a lot. It's in terms of, it's in terms of our build, our infrastructure. We have about 33,000 kilometers of line, with one line spanning beyond 100 kilometers, and we are planning to build extra 14,000 kilometers of line by 2035. So within that space, there's a process of acquisition of land that needs the EO to assist us to be able to choose the right route, to choose the correct location for our substation. And to ensure that when they choose those routes, we do understand, they've got an in-depth understanding when they design for those routes. In-depth understanding such as the type of geology that is on that particular area. Since some of the challenges that we have that impact our security to supply electricity is in terms of subsidence, where you find that after extreme rainfall, we risk losing our conductors, especially on the areas that we've got a dolomitic geology. So those are the things that we need to actually look at. So the moderator, she did ask me that I must really cut short. I can see that she's standing. But before that, I just have I've got two videos that I would like to play for you so that you understand that both the remote sensing and the in-situ technology, it is required on our business.
We could see clearly now. that I can't stop. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly. I can't stop. We could see clearly.
So this is the video showing you a robot that was designed with collaboration to UKZN to assist the engineers with the maintenance and inspection of the power line. So we do understand that remote sensing or looking at the remote, using the remotely sensed data, it will have limitation. But then when you've got the sensor attached to this robot, you are able to see clearly which component that needs to be replaced, the severity of the damage, so that we do make a science-informed decision in terms of our maintenance. Okay, unfortunately, this video is not playing correctly. However, one of the technology that we have deployed within our company is the technology of appreciating the use of UAS, which is unmanned aerial system, and which you are more familiar with the word drone. We also use the very same technology to do line inspection to understand its component. And with this technology, together with our research testing and development partners within ESCOM, we are further developing it so that whenever this drone fly, it's able to download image straight that will be analyzed by the AI. By the time the engineer get back to the station, they would have got the results of the component that are degrading. So that is the part of the remote sensing. So within our organization, we appreciate all technologies that will be able to assist us. And in this side of geoscience, we are the trailblazers at this stage within the utility industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Esteemed panel, you are allowed at least one comment before we take maybe a maximum of 2 questions from the audience. That's your test? If you want to.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon again. Just before we end, unfortunately, time is against us. However, there's two things that I'd like to just point out. The first one is that in the next space conference next year, the members that are accountable for making sure that we move forward are in front of the stage in terms of the panel itself. So if there's no change in what we have done as a collective, then these are the members you must hold accountable for not doing that. By that I mean the DTIC, DSTI, SANSA, the South African Air Force by extension, the DOD, the NEL, industry for now. I'll just make sure I say industry, not Dragonfly. The reason I state that is what we have done to make sure that we can answer our principles that spoke earlier on. We had our first space coordination committee, National Space Coordination Committee, with the representatives, let me say representative, with the DG, Dr. Glenn himself, the representative of DTIC, the Defense Force, the NEL, CSIR, SANSA. And the main task that we would like to do is to make sure that the whole value chain of space economy is addressed at all levels. So we had our first one in this quarter, the next one is coming up in the next quarter, so that we can make sure that we work efficiently to be able to see what we do in the space economy. We have opened the invitation to the following departments. Firstly, DFFE, Forest Fisheries and Environment, DMNRE, Higher Education, and DCDT, so that we can be able to make sure that we are very, very efficient. The reason for that, we have had the opportunity that is given to us by AMSCO. They've worked out how much we as a collective spend in terms of space, data, everything else that's space related, and we realize that we spend quite a lot of money on that. So our task now is to make sure that we coordinate this task and make sure that we support, again, private industry as well as government to make sure that we can be able to get some of these assets, spaceborne assets in the air as soon as possible. So I just wanted to clarify that that is being happening. For now, it will be led by the Defense Force as well as DSTI from an operational perspective. From the strategic perspective, the DG himself will be leading with his counterparts so that they can coordinate and support all of us for what the job that we do. So I just want to clarify that task. But all the members that are here, some of them were at the coordination committee, and we all are making sure that we take a similar approach. And we are going to have some subcommittees. Private industry will be included. And our plan is to make sure that we have a strategic work session with those different entities so that we can work out what is it that we're going to do as a collective. So I just want to just close that loop. Thank you.
Thank you, Major General. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. So,
Thank you. One closing remark. I just wanted to highlight again that we have an extremely mature, internationally competitive private industry space in South Africa. And we are approaching R1 billion of revenue per year. So this is becoming a significant contributor to the country's export revenue. And I believe that DSTI, Space Command, SANSA, CSR, the NEL, and private industry can work together in a collaborative and constructive way when we all play to our strengths. And that's the important thing, is to work out the piece of the playing field for each of the parties. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. One pressing question first. Thank you. You number two. Yeah.
The point that you've made, General Matebula, that most of those my former DG used to say, whose head is going to be on the chopping block So it's us. And it is very important that we do work together, as you've heard earlier this morning. Tosh forgot to mention this when he was giving the context on the issue of geopolitics and the shift that we're seeing. We do have an industry engagement platform, which again, I would like to propose that we do look at geopolitical intelligence risk assessment, so that we work on the basis of what intelligence we've gathered, so that as we review or revise our strategic partnership, it's based on that assessment that we've made. So I would like to invite industry players to those engagements, so that we can help shape the space program based on understanding of the geopolitics. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just to make sure, because of time, I'm just going to cut one question, or I can still ask it, but it doesn't have to be answered now. Maybe it can just be on hold for now. I think my first question would be to Dragonfly on behalf of the local South African commercial space industry. In terms of your experience as a commercial supplier, how does, based on your experience, how does overseas investment versus local investment, how do you balance that to make it easy? For example, if you're a private company and a US maybe funded company wanted to buy, or US influenced company wanted to buy shares, even 100% shares in your company, and you can't find investment locally, how do you balance that? I mean, I'm not going to ask you if there's any company that has come and say, can we buy majority shares in your, how do you balance that with national interest and non-aligned interests? But anyway, that's the question for Dragonfly. Another question was for DTIC. Maybe any other department that's interested in that question can also maybe look into that in terms of how will Africa free trade agreements across Africa help us in terms of building opportunities for local South African companies for us to sell to them. And then the last question will be to the newly formed company for Eskom. Arrows Maps is one of our commercial product that we built from the village. We map rural villages. To NTSA, we capture in situ data, and I just realized on your slide that, Ms. Mpapuli, that we're capturing some of the images that you need. So what platform would you use for us to sell those, to avail those images? There's a lot of data that we're collecting that we don't know what to do with. And then would CSIR maybe like call for proposals to submit those images so that other departments can also access those images? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those questions, and I think we're going to give Brian a chance to answer the first one, And we'll leave those questions with the rest of the panel to ponder upon.
Yeah, the answer to your question is quite simple. I don't want investment. I want revenue. I don't want to give one share away of my company to anybody. I want revenue to grow the company and to build the capacity in the company. As I mentioned when I was talking about facilities earlier, unfortunately in space manufacturing, you can't get going on the market without having facilities. I think if there was an incubator in Western Cape or in Pretoria or wherever it's located, where a startup could make use of infrastructure, not having to invest in itself, that means they would need less investment. If there were projects being funded by government customers, which would allow startups to grow based on revenue and get flight heritage, so that they can then build business traction internationally and generate revenue, you don't need investment. When you have decided that you absolutely need investment in order to take the next step, in order to start in the beginning, let's say with infrastructure, with facilities or something, or later to scale production or to invest in R&D, up until now there hasn't been an investment community in South Africa that was willing to invest. Had there been South African investors willing to put money on the table when we were setting up Dragonfly, without a doubt we would have gone that route instead. Once you start looking at international investors, absolutely, but I mean, international geopolitics is pretty complicated and it changes pretty rapidly as well. So, I mean, yeah, it's certainly you need to choose carefully, but it kind of comes down to what's available to you as well. So, the various African businesses that have taken investment have been from partners who were seeing the potential. Again, for a South African business to go and promote itself on the international stage to international investors is very difficult task. I mean, it's a mammoth task. So typically the investment has come from partners who already know who you are and what you do. So it's not like you have a huge selection base. So then you're looking at the investments that are available and do they make sense? And that's basically the path. But like I said at the beginning, I'd rather take none. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much for the questions and the comments directed at the DTIC. You have asked how do we see us assisting small companies within the African Free Trade Continental Agreement that is in place already now. I must start by saying we have seen increased export revenue, increased export value within the continent within the last year, especially within countries from Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, but I think we need to do more than that. What we are working on, and I would advise now, going forward, the DTIC is resuscitating its foreign economic representative program, where we used to have economic representatives in major countries that are our partners. So DTIC is working on that, which will really assist us, and it remained a lull for some time. I would also say that also when we have exhibitions and expos across Africa, take interest in those and apply and be part of those. Within my presentation, I talked to specifically two of the incentive schemes that are assisting the local companies to go abroad in Africa and get exposure and expose their wares and showcase their capabilities, which amongst others include the sector-specific assistance scheme, which would work very well for this industry across the value chain. I would also say one of the platforms that usually assist are maybe companies highlighted or identified within the department, maybe in cooperation with SANSA, to be part of the ministerial visits across the continent would be other platforms that could assist. But I will take this question further home and get more information from my colleagues of other platforms that probably I'm not aware of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So on the question regarding Africa, so mine will be quite a brief one. So as we are sitting here today, it is estimated that the African space economy today is worth about 20 billion US dollars. That's a lot of rands. How much of that is actually staying on the continent? And yet, I can guarantee you, almost guarantee you, that as it's been mentioned before, and thanks to our very thriving local space industry, in almost every single mission, most space missions, there are at least a few South African-made components, if not subsystems. And in most space programs across the world, there are at least one or two Africans involved in those missions. Now there's a business case for you. It talks about the importance of coordination. Because, and I'll talk about South Africa in this instance, if out of the about $1 trillion US that is projected for the global space economy by say 2040, if say 1% of that could be captured for just our local industry, can you just imagine what that would do? So I think coordination is very important, and there are all these existing instruments that we should be leveraging more of. Somebody mentioned the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Currently, the trade that happens amongst African nations is sitting at around 30%. Of course, there's a lot more that can be done there. And the recent launch of the African Space Agency, again, another opportunity for us, particularly in South Africa, to see how do we ensure that we're not just better coordinated, but really position ourselves to ensure that we're not, as much as we contributed to this African space strategy and African space policy, but how do we position our industry once the African Space Agency becomes operational, etc., to ensure that our very own industry gets to be at the forefront? Because as it's been mentioned, some of our local companies actually compete with each other on a global stage. So I think we are a market in and of ourselves, but I think it just takes coordination and us actually working together as we say we would. Thanks.
Thank you.
With regard to the images that we collate, we're using the drones as well as the robot, it's a little bit difficult to share with the community, especially because we are more specific into our infrastructure. We are more specific. We collect image along the route. So you are not going to get an overall community image. However, if it's a student who is busy with the studies on that regard, analyzing images, looking at developing the models to do machine learning models to analyze those images, the different components of the tower member. That one, I do believe through the coordination, those images can be shared, because at the end of the day, we will benefit from those studies. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you to our panel. We're well over time. Thank you to our audience for participating in our first session. And I think if you have any other pressing questions, you're welcome to engage with the panel during our lunch session. Thank you very much. We break for lunch till 2:30.